We often pretend, like we're attracted to partners who treat us with kindness, respect, and compassion. But the truth is, many of us are inexplicably drawn to those who drain our energy, belittle our feelings, and leave us feeling empty and unfulfilled. You may have noticed this pattern play out in your own life or in the lives of those around you, as we seem to be magnetically drawn to the very people who are least likely to give us what we truly need. Tonight, we're going to explore the alarming patterns of attraction to the unavailable, the hidden motives behind chasing toxic relationships, and the psychology of self-deception that keeps us coming back for more. Our pursuit of the unattainable is often a desperate cry for validation, a primal need to be seen and understood by someone who seems to be the epitome of perfection, no matter how flawed they may actually be. Deep down, we may be terrified of being alone, of being vulnerable, and the unavailable other serves as a constant reminder that we're still worthy, still desirable, and still lovable, even if that's just a faint glimmer in the eyes of someone who's never truly available. The truth is, attraction to the unavailable is rarely about the other person. It's about the void within ourselves that we're trying to fill, the emptiness that we're desperate to silence, and the fear that if we don't cling to this unattainable ideal, we'll be consumed by the darkness of our own uncertainty. It's a classic case of self-deception, where we convince ourselves that we're not good enough, that we're unworthy of love, and that the only way to prove our own value is to chase after someone who's already decided they don't want us. In seeking the unattainable, we're actually attempting to control the uncontrollable, to wrestle with the uncertainty that lies at the heart of every relationship, and to impose a sense of order on a world that's inherently chaotic. Ultimately, our obsession with the unavailable is a reflection of our own insecurities, our own fears, and our own desperate bid for significance in a world that often seems to be moving in the opposite direction. We're often told that we're drawn to the unavailable because we're afraid of intimacy, but the truth is, we're also driven by a deep-seated desire for validation, a need to prove to ourselves that we're worthy of love. The unavailable individual, in our eyes, may represent the perfect storm of validation and control, a chance to simultaneously prove our worth and assert our dominance in a relationship. But let's be honest, the real reason we stay in these toxic relationships is often rooted in our own deep-seated fears, our own sense of inadequacy, and our inability to truly accept ourselves as we are. Unbeknownst to us, our attraction to the unavailable is often a misguided attempt to heal our own emotional wounds, to fill the void left by our unmet emotional needs, and to recapture the security we once knew in a traumatic childhood. What we fail to recognize is that our obsession with the unavailable is ultimately a manifestation of our own ego's desperate need for control, a desperate attempt to impose order on a chaotic world, and to escape the uncertainty of our own emotional lives. And yet, as we become increasingly entrenched in these toxic relationships, we begin to deceive ourselves, rationalizing our actions, and convincing ourselves that it's all worth it, that the temporary highs outweigh the long-term costs, all in a futile attempt to avoid facing the uncomfortable truth about ourselves. When we find ourselves consistently drawn to unavailable partners, it's often because we're unconsciously seeking validation and a sense of control in a relationship that's otherwise lacking in stability and emotional intimacy. We're often so desperate to fill the void within ourselves that we become blind to the red flags, and instead, we cling to the temporary highs of the thrill, the chase, or the fleeting sense of connection we experience with someone who's emotionally unavailable. The reality is, our attraction to these individuals is rarely about who they are as people, but rather about what they represent to us: a sense of power, a validation of our own worth, or a desperate attempt to escape our own insecurity and fear of being alone. It's a toxic cycle of self-deception, where we convince ourselves that we're in love, or that this relationship is different, when in reality, we're simply repeating the patterns of our past and playing out the same destructive scripts over and over again. We need to acknowledge that our feelings about this person are often a reflection of our own inner state, rather than their true character, and that the real question is not why we're choosing this toxic relationship, but what's driving our need for it, a question that requires a level of introspection and honesty that's often difficult to confront. The moment we try to fill the void within ourselves with someone else, no matter how toxic they may be, we're unconsciously confessing a deep-seated shame about our own worth. Deep down, we're attracted to the unavailable because they validate an aspect of our identity, no matter how damaged or dysfunctional that aspect may be. You're not drawn to their behavior, you're drawn to the ego validation that comes with thinking you can change them, fix them, and save them. Fear of being alone is often less about being alone and more about the possibility of facing our own dark corners and confronting the parts of ourselves we've been trying to keep hidden. We sabotage our own chances at a healthier connection because the unavailable partner represents a twisted form of control. We think we can fix them, and in doing so, we convince ourselves that we're actually in control of the situation. At the core of our self-deception lies a desperate attempt to reenact a past narrative, one where we convinced ourselves we were the savior, but in reality, we're just trapped in a toxic cycle of codependency and shame. Here are 6 insightful spoken sentences for the section relationships that hurt us, often trigger a deep-seated need for validation, a desperate cry for love and acceptance from someone who's fundamentally unable to provide it. We chase these toxic relationships not because we're attracted to the danger, but because we're drawn to the familiar, a familiarity that speaks to our own underlying sense of worthlessness. What we're really after is control, a desperate attempt to dictate the narrative, to script our way to a fleeting sense of security, even if it means sacrificing our own sanity. It's not about the other person. It's about us, a deep-seated desire to be seen and heard, a craving for attention and affirmation from someone who doesn't truly see us. Underlying it all, a crippling fear of being alone, of being unlovable, of being irrelevant, driving us to sabotage the very thing that could set us free. At its core, chasing toxic relationships is a classic case of self-deception, a willful blindness to our own destructive patterns, a denial that's rooted in our own fear and insecurity. Thank you for joining me on this profound journey of discovering the complex motives behind our attraction to unavailable partners. Remember, acknowledging these patterns is the first step towards breaking free from the cycle of self-deception that keeps us stuck in toxic relationships. I invite you to share your insights with a comment below and subscribe for more thought-provoking content on human psychology.